For $5,000, you could buy a 2008 model with roughly 150,000 miles, and even the Cooper S up to 2006. It seems like a good deal, but is it really? Today, I'm going to go over whether you should buy a Mini Cooper under $5,000, then talk about if you decide to extend the budget. Mini started as an iconic British hatchback, and in 1994, BMW took over the company. BMW is known for great engines, but BMW is also known for subpar reliability. Now, looking at the lineup, the most reliable BMWs for the early 2000s were the 3 Series, and even they had problems. But here's the catch, the Mini Cooper is a much smaller car with an engine bay that is extremely difficult to work on. The first gen Mini Cooper from 2002 to 2006 came in as a base Cooper with 115 horsepower or a Cooper S with 168 horsepower, which has a supercharger on the same motor as the base, both of which came in as convertible options, and they were extended to 2008. If we have $5,000, we probably don't have much money for repair bills that might show up in the future. So let's go over the issues. In the base models, they have the CVT transmissions, and those transmissions have a high failure rate, and you can't simply fix it like you can with an automatic transmission. And an OEM replacement is $3,000 with a core charge. That's a lot of money, almost as much as what you'll be spending on this $5,000 Mini Cooper. So you have to avoid the automatic base model. The cruise control brake switch on the brake pedal can fail, which could give you a loss of acceleration, which seems to start to become more of a common issue due to its current age. Since it is an older car, bushings can also fail, and more commonly the control arm bushings. Those typically fail like every 60,000 miles. The reservoir tank can crack, the tensioner can make noise, and is very difficult to replace due to its location and the little space around it. The thermostat O-ring can fail and leak coolant. The air conditioning fan can fail, and you'll have to remove the entire dash to replace it, which is a big job. The black exterior plastics can fade, but some Cerakote should fix that right up and make it look brand new again. I've used it, it's a good product. Oil leaking from the crank position sensor is common. It's located on the front of the engine, and it's relatively easy to replace. Turn boot axles going bad is also common, as it is with most front-wheel drive cars. Basically, if you're driving slow around the corner and you hear clicking, most likely that axle is turned and going bad. And you can check that boot underneath the car and see if it has ripped, and if it has, then grease should have splattered kind of all over the place. And you'd want to replace that as soon as you can, because you don't want that joint to break and that axle to be spinning freely, hitting everything in its way. The plastic dipstick can break and get stuck in the oil pan, which would not be fun. It should be replaced if it looks old and brittle. The interior is cheaper and made of plastic, and it can get brittle and the plastic can easily break. Now, if you're looking for a Mini Cooper from the first gen to second gen, you have to check out the oil. You need to pop open the oil cap, get a flashlight of some sort, and look at the valves. If the valves look like they have been burnt and maybe there's a lot of residue on it, kind of dry residue, then most likely that car has been driven with low oil. And that means that engine is not going to last very long, or as long as it's intended, because these engines can last around 200 to 250,000 miles, but that's if it's been taken care of very well. It is an older car, so if you're willing to get your hands dirty or throw some money at it at a mechanic, then this car is just fine for you. And Mini lovers and enthusiasts do not mind working on their car on a regular basis. However, most Mini owners are not car enthusiasts, so take that as you will. If you really want a Mini from this generation, the manual transmission or the S model is the way to go. And it also seems from 05 to 06, most of the issues are less prevalent. Let's say you want to take a look at the second generation from 07 to 2013. Like I mentioned before, you are able to find an 08 model under 5K. This generation has more power, like barely. The S received a turbo instead of a supercharger with 172 horsepower, and the base got a minor bump too, with 118 horsepower with its N14 Prince engine. If you're a BMW fanatic, you know that's not the best engine. In 2011, the base got 121 horsepower and the S got 181 horsepower. There was also a JCW version of Minis throughout the Mini lifetime, but that's for another video. The largest issue is oil starvation up to 2011, which will ultimately cause the death rattle. and also the timing chain jumping timing. The death rattle is basically the timing chain guides and plastics breaking up, falling into the oil pan and getting sucked up by the oil pickup tube. Now, the oil pickup tube's job is to suck up oil and distribute it throughout the entire motor. If it's getting clogged by the plastics from the timing chain assembly, then your engine is going to be starved from oil, and ultimately you'll have catastrophic engine failure. This typically happens due to bad oil. The BMW recommendation is to replace it every 10,000 miles, which is crazy, but it should be replaced every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. If you extend the oil lifetime to 10,000 miles, then the oil will become dirtier and dirtier and will not be able to squeeze through all the small holes it needs to lubricate the entire engine properly, which would very well result in a timing chain issue. Burning oil is also common. Low oil kills the turbos and bearings within the engine. The engine holds around 4 to 4.5 quarts of oil, and losing 1 quart every 1,000 miles is said to be normal by the Mini community for this years, up to 2011, which is when Mini updated the motor. Some say it's the PCB not creating proper vacuum and is faulty, and others say it's bad piston rings, and maybe the turbo is simply burning the oil. You can check the engine compression to see if it's the rings, and that's fairly easy to do. And you can buy a compression tester off Amazon for about $20 and you can test it yourself, or should be able to. Now, if the PCV valve is shot, then check your tailpipe and see if there's soot in the tailpipe. And if it is, you can simply replace the PCV valve. And if it's been running like this for a long time, the catalytic converter can clog down the line, which can be expensive, especially if you need to pass emissions. Beyond that, there are coolant issues. The water pump is made of plastic in the early 2nd gen and can fail and break apart. The thermostat housing can also leak coolant. They are also made of plastic. The diverter valve fails in the Cooper S, and which can cause your car to run sluggish and should pop up a check engine code. But the updated motor in 2011 seemed to fix the oil issues. Now, the main reason the first 2 generations are riddled with issues is because BMW and Peugeot teamed up to make these Minis. The updated 2nd generation in 2011 received BMW's variable valve train or Valvetronic, and it is a bit more reliable. Now let's talk about the 3rd gen, from 2014 to present. First of all, it's much higher quality, it's a better driving car, it has more power, and it's all BMW now. The base model received the B38 turbo 1.5 liter inline-3 motor with 134 horsepower. The Cooper S has a 2 liter turbo inline-4 with 189 horsepower. The B48, which has been proving itself very reliable. In 2019, the B48 motor in the JCW model received 302 horsepower. That's just a testament of how strong this motor really is. 2016 to present, Mini Cooper seems to be the most reliable and refined Mini to buy. However, one under 100,000 miles will run you around $15,000, and they are still fairly too new to know the exact issues that may appear, but their track record has been proving to be solid so far. To boil it all down, if you want a Mini, especially the 1st and 2nd generation, be sure it's been taken care of very well. Make sure it has all the paperwork, oil changes on time, every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, not 10K like BMW said for some crazy reason, and all the other fluids changed in proper intervals. Now, these Minis are comparable to the 3 Series BMW, and I personally would rather have a 3 Series, but that's just me. I am a fan of the 3 Series, and if you want to learn more about the 3 Series BMW, check out this video. This is Chris AutoMotivate. Always appreciate and respect one another, and I hope this helped you out. Have a great day.